If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you email me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. One of my favorite guests we have today returning to us, Patrick Bergy, Gold, who is the author of the book Operation Shadowgate, The American Awakening. And anytime I can get him back, I get him back here for whatever I can get him to talk about. Mr. Bergy, are you there?
Yes, I am, Ed. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, very good. Formerly Bikers for Trump, too, right?
Yes, I was a Bikers for 45, Bikers for Trump. Yeah. They tried to get me into Born to Ride for, well, I can't even think of the other one. They tried to get me into like Born to Ride for 45. I didn't go into that. I went off and did Shadowgate. I'm not sure which one would have been more stupid.
Right. How did you get? You were invited, I guess, into Shadowgate because of your expertise in computers and social media manipulation and psyops, right?
They reached out to me right after I had actually filed that Ketam whistleblower lawsuit in January of 2020, just before COVID. In fact, I'm pretty sure I picked up COVID and on the train in Washington on the way back. I love taking trains.
Oh, really?
And
no, me too.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, but then that got you into this whirlwind of Roger Stone and Alex Jones and Millie Weaver and all these characters, right?
Yeah. Which I had already been like aware of maybe a couple of them, like the Jack Posobiec. He came on my radar quite some time early on because, it's like if that's what you do for a job, then when you see other people doing it, even if they're trying to hide it, you kind of go, oh, yeah, that's what they do for a living. And so, the work that I had been doing as a job was the work that I did for like the Department of Defense that I'd written about in what was called IIA, or Interactive Internet Activities, which was basically social media psychological warfare, helping build these capabilities for the Department of Defense to use against our adversaries, which I later saw were being used on Americans. And that's kind of why I was speaking out. And that got picked up by the people, by Millie Weaver, who worked for, at the time, she had worked like 8 years for InfoWars. And they asked me if I would do a documentary that was based on that. I agreed, and that was like April 20th. Then everything just went crazy after that. A couple days after that, the cops showed up at their house under really sketchy circumstances related to InfoWars. Millie Weaver's mom, who was like at the time, just before, dated a good friend of like people connected to InfoWars too. And they apparently caught her mom snooping around their InfoWars studio in their basement on their farm in Ohio. And when they confronted her, they took her phone. Apparently that turned into like a thing. Cops were called out there, but nothing happened. And then, fast forward like from that was April 20th, oddly enough, that they had called me. So that was 420. Oddly enough, how I can remember that number. Yeah. And then it was like 425 I think it was like actually the day that they had ordered my book, Victim of the Swamp, online at on Amazon, and like the day that it arrived was the day that that all went down, which was like 5 days after they originally called me. Then fast forward 3 months after after I had already interviewed with Millie on her farm a few months later in July for what became Shadowgate, and basically exposing the weaponization of social media to influence U.S. presidential elections. Oh my goodness, right?
Yeah.
By our elected officials. And so
How much do you think Russia's involved in all that?
They don't need to be. Oh, they could just sit back and laugh. We're doing a great job destroying ourselves. And that's, if I was advising them, that's what I would advise them to do. And I used to get paid a lot of money to advise people.
Well, then what do you make of all this business with Tim Pool and all that whole little group of characters there getting that Russian money?
Useful idiots.
Yeah.
Useful idiots. You know, if you can throw some money at people, that was kind of one of the arguments that I was making. I made that argument when I was on InfoWars set talking to Alex Jones, saying, this has just we got to stop. Everybody's got to stop this. We've all got to acknowledge this is happening, and we've got to stop it, because we certainly don't have the high moral ground to call out Russia any more than Joe Biden has the high moral ground to call out President Trump after he pardons his son. Every one of them are just as crooked as crap. Now, Russia is America's quote-unquote adversary, but I know too many Russian individuals, Russian people. My second wife, although we were only married for a few weeks, she was Russian, full disclosure. She didn't hate Americans. Mm-hmm. She doesn't like probably this one as much as she did before she married him, but that just comes with the deal. It was like an over the curb deal. I'm like a used car now, right? So that's not necessarily on Russia, our marriage issues. But no, I mean, they don't hate us. It's just this politics between, and a lot of the stuff that I was calling out, like, our partnership with Paul Manafort, who later on, ended up because I called out Paul Manafort in Victim of the Swamp, I believe, and as being our partner and involved with all of this stuff. And then what does he end up?
Manafort was involved in this PSYOP operation stuff?
Yeah, he was a partner. He was Dynology's, his company 3EDC was Dynology. That's who I worked for, General Jones's company, James Jones. He was their number one partner, right? And that's what I was exposing, the fact that Paul Manafort, Roger Stone's best friend. And when I approached Roger Stone about this, before he knew who I was, he acknowledged to me knowing General Jones. And in fact, speaking to General Jones a few weeks earlier, he had told me, having dinner with him. But
and Manafort also was partners with Podesta. They're doing the same exact stuff with, Well, then let me ask you this. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm saying gold as I talk to Patrick Bergy, okay?
But now, all this crap, Ed, you're catching on, right?
Yeah, But January 6th, now the event planning company that day was founded by Manafort, okay? Mm-hmm. You knew that, right?
The J6, well, it was, it was by Roger Stone. And if Manafort had a direct connection involved with one of the organizations that involved, what was that guy? I can't think of the guy's name. I was there as their VIP guest.
Yeah. Well, then what do you make of this guy Lehman Good, who committed suicide the next day? His father was partners with Stone and Manafort.
They got a lot of history. I don't know anything about him, but they're, who else was partners? If you go to 3EDC's website, in archives, the Internet archives, back in 2007, you can see for yourself that they list 5 companies. Dynology, they list out of alphabetical order at the very top. We were there. We were Manafort's #1 partner, and this is why while he was working while he was the campaign manager for John McCain's campaign, Dynology was also working McCain's campaign, right? I was in Iraq working a contract for him in Iraq, but back in the States, Dynology at the headquarters, we were handling their email, their security, and their micro-targeting of social media, which is, basically the social media micro-targeting is a really polite way of when that sounds pretty harmless, right? Yeah. But when you know that the same company developed the ShadowNet application, and I had talked about this with the owner, Jim Jones, the son of General James Jones, at dinner just like a couple nights earlier. And, they were asking me about the potential of using it for influencing elections in the States and marketing it for that. So when I find out that they're doing that and I see micro-targeted social media, I see it differently. I see it as probably almost certainly an IIA operation, with the use of the ShadowNet. And the same things that Paul Manafort was accused of, I think charged and convicted of, even I think in Europe, for influencing the Ukrainian elections. Yeah. I think in 2010, and don't quote me on the dates, but maybe 10 or 12 or 14 at that time, the techniques and the things that he was being accused of doing would and could only be done with an application like ShadowNet. So, us being their partners and Manafort not actually making these applications, just being a company that sells this stuff, and Dynology not having any salespeople, just being a company that makes this stuff, it kind of seems logical that these two kind of got together and were selling the capabilities that I had helped develop to use against our adversaries in defense of our country, was being used on us by these guys. And then, Millie gets arrested as she's uploading the Shadowgate documentary. Roger Stone calls for her to be fired within a couple days. I think even before she was out of jail. InfoWars fired a journalist that had worked for them for 8 years because of claims that were made about Roger Stone in that documentary by me, a DOD whistleblower. Right? So, in my opinion...
What were those claims you were making about Stone? Real quick. What were the claims you made about Stone?
Well, the claims I made about Stone was the claims that I... of the person-to-person conversation that I had with him at this event when I first met him, and his publicly known friendship with Paul Manafort going back 3 or 4 decades, and me just trying to get more questions answered from him on that. Now, he says, I haven't done business with Manafort in a couple decades. He said that to Roger Stone, or to Alex Jones, when they were talking about me and the claims that I had made. And then the very next sentence he goes, but I got Paul Manafort his job in 2016 working for Trump. And I'm like, okay, isn't that kind of working for Paul Manafort if you're getting him a job in 2016 to work on a campaign?
Yeah, and he clearly brought Manafort into that campaign.
So he brags about it. So I'm like, listen, you guys haven't been just nothing for the last couple decades. I'm wondering what he knows. And when I asked him about that, he clammed up at that event that I first met him at Mugs and Jugs here in Clearwater.
Stone did.
Stone did. He clammed up after he didn't clam up when I mentioned to him that I worked for General Jones. He did clam up when I mentioned Shadowgate. Oh no, I've never heard of that. And then never spoke of it again. And that's when these people started acting strange or entering into my into my area of operation, if you would call it that, including people like Tory, who later on, after I filed the Ketam, because if I'm not mistaken, Roger Stone's name was literally mentioned in my Ketam, in my whistleblower lawsuit, including Fox News.
Hey, can you send me a copy of that Ketam and I'll put it up on Patreon?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, great.
It's probably around somewhere.
No, but for free. I'll put it for free.
But another interesting thing about that, the guy who ended up rejecting the Ketam, actually there were two people. Bill Barr had to say no to it, right? Because that's how the Ketam process works. You make two copies, you submit it to the federal courthouse, and one copy has to go to the director of the Department of Justice. The other copy goes to the judge overseeing it, which ironically was Judge Mehta, who ends up being the judge that really prosecuted most of these people, including, I believe, Enrique Tarrio, which ironically, Enrique Tarrio, he was set up by Hunter Biden's attorney, and during his Hunter Biden's
Hollywood attorney, that fellow.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that fellow. Yeah.
Let me be very careful how I phrase this.
Yes, sir.
The guy that clearly gave me that Hunter Biden's Hollywood attorney's cell phone number, who was telling me he was a journalist. This guy Aaron Soroka, I can't think of his name for sure. He reaches out to me, and then he starts telling me how he's friends with Kevin Morris, and then he gives Kevin Morris's phone number, and I left Kevin a text that I guarantee pissed him off, because I found out Kevin Morris was the attorney that helped put together the South Park episode, or the South Park deal with Comedy Central. So I looked at him as being a legal representative of South Park, and I had turned. Okay, so I had a copy, and I'm jumping around here a bit, but this is kind of funny. I had a copy of Hunter Biden. I ended up with a copy of Hunter Biden's laptop that I got from Rudy Giuliani, which was a funny story. I think I did a show on that with you.
Yeah, we did.
And one of the images on that laptop was a picture of that Hunter liked to take pictures of his poop, selfies of his poop, and so everybody's trying to post pictures of him having sex acts and shit and stuff. Sorry. And he's got this man is a well-endowed individual, right? Yeah. So I'm like, if you start posting naked pictures of Hunter Biden, right, you're going to get all the housewives are going to start supporting Joe Biden. Because, it's going to turn into a Paris Hilton moment, right? Where it's it's going to make this guy famous. So I thought the smarter play would be to post his poop, because that just kind of seemed weird, right? And so I took one of the pictures he took of his poop, clearly screenshotted from his laptop, and I sent it to the press secretary at the time, Jen Psaki, who did not want to answer the question about the poop that I had given. I forget what the exact question was, but it was something about not giving a crap. Humorously being rolled in there. But then I received the letter from Hunter Biden's attorney, demand letter, when that lawsuit thing came out a couple of years ago, for all the information and copies that I had of the laptop stuff and any communications I had with people. And God's my witness, they had to get me more space. I just sent them everything. And it's like they had to open up more gigabits of more space on their servers. But and it included all the stuff with Soroka and his attorney, and how like Morris was trying to trying to pay me like $10,000 to be quiet about it. And yeah, so I sent all of that stuff to him along with the Department of
Oh my
Justice.
God! No wonder they didn't want to use it. Yeah. No wonder. Hey, but real quick, I don't want to. But what about this stuff about the John Mark Isaacs in Delaware, the blind computer repairman? That's a total nothing, right?
Well, I mean, wow, he's kind of weird,
Yeah.
right? You know, enter the strange guy from a Mel Brooks comedy, right? But I'm not a big fan of Max either, so I kind of got an issue with him there. I'm a Microsoft IT guy for like 25 years now. So I'm not going to defend him on really any realm. But how did a blind guy do this is beyond me. I'm really trying to figure that out. And
I'm trying to figure out how he got on as a guest on a morning show on the station that I was on, where the morning show host used to scream, "There's a card-carrying commie on at night on this very station every night." And then somehow he gets a huge guest on his show.
But I feel for him at the same time, because I've gone to the FBI about this stuff. They either don't want to hear about it because it's like under $1 million, or they don't want to hear about it because it's going to be politically damaging. They worry about their careers, and I'm not going to touch this. Or even worse.
Or
right?
that guy McConnell who was getting paid by the Russians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So many of the things that we're dealing with right now would have absolutely been addressed by information that I sent to Tampa FBI back in 2017, 2018. And they said to me that they had verified my credibility and were forwarding the information to the State Department officials overseas that would handle this, which I'm sure just went, and then who were we dealing with all of the issues? Were the overseas State Department people for the deep, that's basically they sent it to the deep state. And then I could never get anybody to respond again, and then they closed that down. But then look what happened with NATO. Look what happened with all of these things over the years since. And it's like,
Well, but Patrick Bergy, let me ask you a quick question now. Now that the election's over and you're on the outside from all these guys, are you concerned about your personal safety and your personal, because they're talking about retribution, rounding people up, they're talking.
Oh my God. These people are morons. They're not going to be able to do anything like that. Oh my God. Exactly what did Trump get accomplished that was like one of his crazy things, right? In his first term? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He was fought and all the way through till the 4 years ended. He's going to just, he's going to get a few things done. It would be, what his smart play would be to get the people that were working on bringing the Trans-Siberian Railway through North Korea into Seoul, right?
Yeah.
The politics of that are such that if you could accomplish that, you would have peace. I worked on that like very loosely when I was over in South Korea, just because I thought it was cool and I liked trains, Ed. But I want to take the Trans-Siberian Railway across Russia into Seoul. That would be a really cool train ride.
Yeah, but the problem is his base has no clue about the Trans-Siberian Railway. They're more concerned about trans using bathrooms, okay? They have no clue, okay?
This was actually something that the Trump administration was working on at the beginning,
really?
like in 2018 or 19. I cannot find the article on it for the life of me, but no, there were some people that were pro-Trump people that were over there working on that issue, and then it just kind of fell apart. It was about the time he was going over to meet with when he met with Kim over there, with the Kims over there.
Oh, interesting. That sheds whole new light on that whole situation.
But nobody's ever. But that's the thing, right? And think about the politics of being involved in that. It's something so simple, but to bring that train through those countries now it seems impossible. But that makes it even more likely as the best way to do it. I'm just saying. I spent a lot of time over in that region.
Let me ask you this, because we're burning through time here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Pete Hegseth, you're a military guy. What do you make of that, bro?
Well, he's just Fox News.
Yeah.
And so, like, I worked for General Jones. That was my issue. That was the thing that I was saying, hey, they're weaponizing social media. They're weaponizing it against us in the U.S. And as evidence, even in Shadowgate, I showed how his vice president of Jones Group International was, while she was still working as vice president of Jones Group International, became a Fox host correspondent, Jillian Turner. Jillian Turner then went on to become the White House correspondent. And so if that's not the weaponization of social media by the guy that I built the frickin' ShadowNet for, which was designed to allow you to it's like a project management tool that allows you to manage all your assets, all your targets, all the content, right? If you're pretending to be somebody you're not on social media, if you're, then you have to remember all the lies that you tell, right? So this basically helps everybody remember all the lies. If you don't need a ShadowNet for the truth, a ShadowNet application for the truth, because you can remember those pretty easily, right? So they put Hegseth. So you've got I ran into so many people. Dan Bongino, oh my God, he got promoted into Fox News right after he buried. I handed him a copy of my key tam. And within a couple days, he had blocked me on social media. A couple days later, he got his gig at Fox News. And then a couple months after that, he got an ownership offer for that social media platform that ended up shutting down. Well, I can't remember what that was called, but it was the big thing that he was involved with.
The thing with Tim Pool?
Maybe
because he was shaking his boots over the Tim Pool thing.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was, because he is, in my opinion, just bought and paid for. He is the most just. He used to be Obama's protector. Who thought that he would be the best guy to be the voice of like MAGA or Trump? I don't know. The guy who swore to, throw himself in front of a bullet to protect Obama is going to be the guy that we're going to trust with Trump. I don't know. These things have never made sense to me, Ed. And then when I did end up engaging with him and meeting him, he did not disappoint me with his dishonor and cowardice. So, but what are you going to do, Ed? Right? Because they do hold all the power. I can say anything about him that I want that's true, and it's despicable. But it doesn't change a thing, because these guys, they are keeping in power. And even though people know this, they still don't care. They still prefer, they've been sold the better of two evils BS, right?
Yeah, perfect example. Everybody knows that Matt Gaetz is a sleaze. A junior in high school is sitting in a room naked with two grown men, and they call that a party. Okay? You know what I mean, man? They're giving this kid drugs, and they call it a party.
Yeah.
What was your experience with Gaetz?
My experience with Gaetz was awful. He was completely dishonorable. He's had my information, which was, by the way, a DOD whistleblower, following the chain of command and handing him evidence of potential treason, right? Which should, under law, require him to take action. But he didn't. And then when I approached him after Millie was arrested, what did he do? He buried Shadowgate. Why? Because he was best friends with Roger Stone. Yeah. Stone was one of his like campaign managers. And so here I'm going to Matt Gaetz thinking this guy is going to be, oh, he's going to stand up for the truth and stuff. Hell no. He stood up to protect Roger Stone, to bury the evidence of a DOD whistleblower, a guy that spent 7 years overseas away from his family, working both in uniform as a contractor to defend his country, and comes back and says, hey, guys, this is bad. Could you help me get – nope, they bury it because they're the ones doing it. And how could I have known that? I couldn't have, but I figured it out a bit too late. I am just a damn PFC after all.
Now, what do you make out of good old Rudy Giuliani? You know, you've had a lot of dealings with him. What do you think about his current situation?
Exactly where he deserves to be. He is such an idiot. He is a dishonorable person. He will lie. He will just sit there and lie to you without compunction to save his own ass, right? And I sat there. I watched just with him, Millie, Gavin, and his receptionist with the big tatas. We watched like a half hour of Shadowgate. I told him how, you know, when that the ShadowNet almost certainly provided John McCain an unfair disadvantage in the primary that he ran against McCain in 2008. And, you know, if you ran for office and you found out years later that you had lost to someone who almost certainly had used a Department of Defense weapon that had been designed to protect your country against its enemies, and had then been used against you to defeat you, another Republican, in the Republican primary, would you be upset, Ed? You know, because Rudy was upset. That ain't no lie, right? Yeah. He tried to get a car called over so that we could be driven over to the White House to meet with Trump. But he couldn't get near it. He had already been, that was like December, that was like January, maybe 9th or 10th. I get the days all screwed up. So it was already past January 6th. Everybody was already freaking completely turning on Rudy. Yeah.
Did he ever mention anything to you about Tower Financial and working for Epstein?
No, but he was working with Mike Tremarco.
Who's that?
Tremarco was one of his clients as an attorney. He was a client representing Mike Tremarco in a lawsuit against Nix, the owner of Cambridge Analytica.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
It was like $65 million that they were in a lawsuit with, which ironically, and you'll never hear Rudy mention this, but, you know, the Italygate thing. Who were they trying to point the Italygate thing to? They were trying to point the Italygate thing on Nix, right? Which kind of seems super suspicious when you realize that the person who was tasked by Trump to investigate Italygate, which was Rudy.
Oh, boy.
Right? And then Rudy turns around and doesn't happen to mention to anybody that he's in a lawsuit representing Mike Tremarco, who was a partner with Nix, I believe related to when Mike Tremarco had like ownership of Dish Networks, right? Which makes me think that lawsuit for $65 million might have been a quiet way for Tremarco to recoup money that Nix owed them from data from Dish Networks. Because what else would be worth $65 million other than data, right?
Right.
What happened to Cambridge Analytica and Facebook? Well, Facebook took $1 billion plus hit in multiple So if it had been discovered that Tremarco was providing, or Dish Network was providing data to Cambridge Analytica, well, they wouldn't probably deal with $1 billion hit that well, would they? So everybody gets lied to, right? You as MAGA, who were following the Italy-gate stuff, probably should have known the context of the involvement with the people behind the scenes that you were being led to believe were one thing when they were completely other, right? With huge financial motivation. So everything that's happening to Rudy, I just cheer. I'm on team election workers, right? I ran for supervisor of elections in 2004 with no political affiliation in Pasco County, Florida. I'm always going to side with an election worker, and that, what is that, Ruby? Go Ruby, right? Freaking take his crap. He is a lying piece of crap. He almost destroyed our country. He was a key figure behind what I consider to be an attempted coup d'etat by a handful of meatheads that thankfully failed, but I'm really concerned what role they're going to be allowed in this administration. But then I'm not too concerned about it because Trump's not going to run again. So anybody he promised anything to, even his friends on, quote unquote, on the Republican side, he doesn't have to. He's not going to give a crap about either way anyway, right? He's not running again.
Yeah, he seems already on that path with his cabinet picks. Did anything come up with Rudy and the Venezuelan coup and his cocaine money laundering clients and Silvercore?
I don't know. That wasn't that who was that guy?
Keith
that worked with Rudy.
Keith Shore? Costello?
Lev Parnas.
Lev Parnas. Okay.
He was talking about that. I would buy Lev's story on that, even though Lev is on the payroll of the same people that were paying. He's on the same payroll of the people. Kevin Morris was paying off. Right?
Very interesting.
Several in that group. So absolutely. So I don't trust these people very much at all. And it came out. The other guy that Lev was working with, it came out in like the Washington Post or something, showed that they were getting paid by Morris. Can't think of his name right now. But, and he was working closely with Lev, so I'm pretty much assuming that Lev, the way he shut up about everything. But Lev's not wrong. Lev, and think about this, right? These people are not good people. Like Michael Cohen.
Yeah. Everybody's making a deal. New York. I'm from New York. Everybody was making a deal.
Would you let Michael Cohen date your daughter?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I look at these people.
Yeah.
Are they politicians? Yeah, but would I let them date my... No. Right? So these are just bad human beings, bad individuals. And
Tom Arnold says, and he was dealing with Michael Cohen for that Pissgate tape in depth. He says that Michael Cohen's still getting paid by Jerry Falwell Jr. He's still on the payroll. Not to talk. What's that? Yeah, Roseanne's ex-husband. Yeah, that Michael Cohen is still on the payroll from Jerry Falwell Jr. Not to talk about Epstein and Trump, and not to talk about Trump and abortion. So he still gets a paycheck to keep quiet about that issue.
And wonderful. This is all of our information and everything's getting exposed, not by the FBI or our elected officials who should be protecting us, but by basically Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr.
Yeah, Roseanne Barr's ex-husband. Spilling the beans.
Couldn't make this up.
Yeah.
Make this up. Right? But it doesn't seem like none of this is going to have a good ending. I put out on Facebook a couple days before the election, not that it mattered, seemed to matter, like a bunch of people, but not that it mattered to me. I just put out there the first time in 40 years, I'm not voting, right?
Yeah.
I don't pretend to be like this good Christian or anything, but let's just say I have enough fear in God not to do things that I think are going to be like I might have to pay for someday, right? It just seems wise. And I couldn't pull myself to vote for Trump because I know all the people around him are just some of the most evil people I've ever met or experienced or engaged with in my 58 years of being around this world, right? And, and then top it all off, he's pushing Bibles. Are you kidding me? Right? It's like, and so I'm pretty sure, and I don't care, and I see former PSYOP, the former head of the CIA, Michael Flynn, going around to these religious organizations and churches, and I'm just looking at them going, people, you're being played, and these people are so low that they use God, and they don't care. Flynn doesn't care.
Yeah, Ollie North, too. Ollie North from Iran-Contra used to go around and talk at churches, too.
Yeah. So these people, they will do or say anything. And normal people like you or me, well, not me, because I don't consider myself normal because I actually worked with these types of people for years, but, providing IT support, not operationally. So I get the depth that we're capable of going, right? And I look at these people and it's just so sad. It's so sad that they will say or do anything, and I voted for Trump in 2016.
Bikers for Trump, yeah.
Right? I did not vote for him because I thought that he was the optimum replacement because, Mother Teresa couldn't do it, right? I voted for him knowing that he was like basically would do or say anything to win, and he would call out and expose people that I knew were being really bad and needed to be brought to light, right? And I'm like, oh, this guy's perfect for that. Let him go. And he did, but then I realized all the people around him, there was definitely no draining of the swamp. No, definitely no draining of the swamp. All we did is just, he just became like the manager of a new swamp.
Yeah.
A deeper one with critters like, now we've got people like Roger Stone that have even more credibility, more power, more influence. And these are the people like Roger Stone and Paul Manafort are the people that represented Imelda Marcos.
Right. And they called it the torturer's lobbyist.
Yeah, after they had stolen billions from the impoverished Filipinos. These aren't God's children, man. These are the most evil people that have probably walked the planet in our generation or even generationally, right? Just in my personal opinion. Can I say it like that so I don't get sued? It's obviously an opinion. I cannot provide facts that they are, in fact, evil.
And not only that, they all seem to have the same sexual perversions, too. Manafort giving his wife away to other men, and Roger Stone bringing other men into the bedroom. The stories about Trump trying to hit on other men's wives and stuff. They've got the similar perversions.
Yeah. And, I don't even care about that. Do what you want, right? But don't then turn around, represent yourself as someone better or different, and use that power and influence to then alter the course of this country. Do it because of who you are and let people judge you based on actually who you are, which is kind of what Trump did. Nobody who voted for Trump can ever look back and go, wow, I didn't see that coming, right? You knew you were releasing a bull into a china closet, but you knew that the china was already largely messed up. Missing a lot of pieces and needed to kind of get redone.
Well, speaking of a destroyed China closet, what do you make of this whole Hunter Biden pardon? I know you mentioned to me earlier you had a whole different take on that. What do you got?
Well, Okay, so I explained earlier that of my connection with that. I never did finish though that I had turned the pictures that he liked to take of his poop, into. I didn't turn it. Oh my God, what's the guy's name? I'm going to kill myself. He's wonderful. I'll think of it. But he turned it into a Mr. Hanky type character, right? So he turned it into Hunter Hanky, we called it. And so I had sent that characterized image of Hunter's poop holding a characterized version of his actual laptop with that image open on his laptop, like Hunter Hanky was going to go like privately do something looking at his own poop or another poop, right? Because that's what Pope would do. Poop would do, like poop porn, right? And so I send that to Kevin Morris, asking him as legal representation to Comedy Central if he could speak to the boys about getting Hunter Hanky brought in as a character on South Park. And I did not at that point get a response again from
Ever.
Mr. Morris.
Ever from that point on.
Go figure.
It's too bad. The guy seems to have a lot of money to spread around.
So the Hunter thing, right? So.
Well, no, before you get to that, real quick, the version that Matt Gaetz entered into the congressional record, is that the full Hunter Biden laptop as far as you know?
Well, as far as anybody knows, it is, but could that have been – there's no chain of custody on it, so you could never use it. You could never use it in any court of law. Could you use it politically? Probably. Is 99% of it, 99.99%, is 100% of it true? Probably. But you can't go by that when you are doing computer forensics.
Oh, yeah, the chain of custody is destroyed on that. But what about the story Lev tells about being on the plane with Hannity and Rudy missed the flight? That's when he got arrested. And he tells me on tape that he was going to Vienna to get another copy of the laptop that was being supplied to him to them by Russia. He goes on MSNBC. It's a different story, but I got him on tape.
But was it,
what do you know? What's that?
Was it a different laptop?
It must be little bits from here, little bits from there. He says that the Russians would invite Hunter to Kazakhstan, hook him up with hookers and coke and stuff like that, film him, and they were planting on the laptop.
On Hunter's laptop, there was a recording of him talking about getting his laptop stolen by a bunch of Russian hookers. While he was telling this story while he was doing blow, and I believe possibly banging another chick while he was talking to his ex, or I'm not sure how that was right. It was a long time ago. But there was a video on his laptop of him actually talking about that. But I would caveat that with an argument was made based on the timeline of the two laptops. But I don't fully conspire with that timeline, so it's still kind of open to me. I think there are probably two different laptops that got stolen by this crackhead.
Well, there's also the Keith Abloh laptop too.
The Keith Abloh?
Yeah. Keith Ablow's brother went to a book signing launch with Birkenfeld, Bo Dietl was there, that whole Costello, that whole bunch was there. And he says, Hunter Biden went to live with Keith Abloh. He says, we have Hunter Biden's laptop as dowry. We want between $2 and $3 million for it. Is there anything on that laptop that's so damning that it's worth $3 million?
Oh, I'm sure.
You think so?
Well, probably not anymore, right? All content has value, right? Super Bowl is extremely valuable for licensing the day of the Super Bowl,
right.
But a couple years out, you can't license it for as much, right? Lose value. So any value anybody had on blackmail with Biden's is TikTok.
Right. Well, but the thing is, too, it's another funny part of that story is that Bo Dietl, and I got this from Birkenfeld on tape. He tells the story. Birkenfeld and Bo Dietl go down to Keith Ablow's house to negotiate for the laptop. Negotiations break down. The next day or a couple of days later, there's a knock at the door. It's the DEA with a search warrant. Give us that laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man. So they got to a judge, obviously, man. You know what I mean?
Did they give him the laptop?
Yeah, and then Hunter Biden got it back a few days later, but clearly copies were made.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, he wasn't that. Yeah, he could have used an IMO. Hunter could have used an information management officer. They probably would have been a good. It would have been worth it.
It would have been worth every penny. Right? Plus, he has his hand out all over the world collecting all this money. You'd think he would have had a team around him, right?
Yeah. No. The guy. He liked to party,
Yeah.
and I can't. I had my time. I'm not freaking throwing stones at
I hear
him.
you, me too.
I'm actually probably one of the few people that look at Hunter as a victim of this, right? And I said that from day one. Even that woman Tori started saying it after I said this because it makes sense, right? Everybody around Hunter, for political reasons, instead of doing the right thing and getting him help, they've always just lied about it, lied to cover it up for him. And he's lucky to be alive today because his dad hasn't given two craps. The campaign people around him haven't given two craps. Do whatever you want and cover it up. And then if he does die, I'm sure they already had a story made up for that we would have never heard the truth about, right? And so, he banging his brother's, his dead brother's wife while he's doing blow, massive amounts of it.
Yeah, and she says, if he's around my daughter, call the cops.
Yeah, and recording it all,
yeah.
Right? Recording it all like he wants to get caught, like he's asking for help. Like, why else would you do that? The guy wasn't getting help. He should have been getting help by people around him. But all they cared about was politics. And did Joe Biden pardon Hunter because he wants to help him? Hell no. Are you helping someone who's a drug addict by reinforcing the lies and allowing them to continue to get away with it? No, you're not. If he cared at all, in my opinion, about his son, he would have said, son, I'm going to be here with you. I'll come visit you. You need to answer for the crimes that you committed. And please, God, you're young enough. You're going to be out in a couple years. And learn from this, right? And maybe in 10 or 20 years, Hunter Biden will still be alive, right? And be able to get away from these heavy drugs. But what do you want to bet that if it hasn't happened already, if by the time within the next couple years, Hunter Biden's dead from an overdose, right? Because do you really think just because he's like the president's son, this is all over with his addiction?
Yeah.
No. The addictions don't end like that, right? They don't end by lying to the addict because you don't want to offend them or you want to, I know so many guys who will just say whatever they want to a girl when she's, just to sleep with her, even though, here, do this, no. That's not how you are a good human being, right? If you are truly someone's friend, you're going to be honest with them. And you're going to still be there to support them if they even want it afterwards. But you're not helping them by lying, covering for them.
Yeah, and it's
right?
not like he was going to get 10 years.
No,
Yeah.
This was – but it's a life sentence.
Yep.
If he doesn't get away from – the hard drugs. We're not talking about weed here. If he doesn't get away from the hard drugs, that if Joe even watched one video on the laptop, like it's online, Dad. You don't need one of those Microsoft parenting software applications to monitor your son's crap with. You can Google it now, right? Because he was that careless. And you can see what your son's been doing. And you can't just condone it. You can't cover it up. And you know the only reason he's doing this pardon is to just, in his own mind, I think, in Joe's mind, it's gonna end any future trials or things like that. That's going to further soil Joe Biden's name. But what's it going to do to help his son actually quit, actually take responsibility for the actions that he's done and begin the actual steps to quit? He says he hasn't done it in 5 years. Bullshit.
Yeah. And the sex addiction too, has that been addressed? Come on, this is, and that comes from poor parenting, absent parenting. Yeah.
Well, I'm a sex addict. I'm just like, I just have no sex. My shelves are bare, so we're not going to hold that against him.
Yeah, I'm just so ugly. I can't fulfill it.
I would be a great sex addict if I could actually have sex.
Oh, my God. Listen, on that note, okay, on that note, I don't know if we want to end there or not. But we only have like 4 minutes left, okay? Not even that. But can you come back and tell us about I wanted to ask you about Alex Jones, and I want you to come back, though, and tell us the whole story. You want to tell us about Scott Ritter. I know that had a big effect on you.
Scott Bennett.
Scott Bennett. Sorry, Scott Bennett.
Yeah, no.
So real quick, Alex Jones, and then you got to promise me to come back this week or next 10 days.
Yeah, no, I'll come back whenever you want me.
What do you think of Alex Jones and his demise?
It's just sad. It's just sad because I look at him as patriots. I don't look at him as, they look at him as what they called Cambridge Analytica in the trial, in the court hearings. Steve Bannon and those guys, they had named that demographic as the neurotics, and they targeted that neurotic demographic, the InfoWars followers.
Yeah.
Right? And so they've targeted a demographic. They killed a documentary that would have exposed them weaponizing social media, using their data to target those demographics. And now they continue to do it. And these are actually good Americans, good people, right? Maybe not one of the, religious people are one of the first to be targeted for these types of IIA operations because, if you're someone who has the ability to believe in something you can't see, like God, like Jesus, then you have the ability to be manipulated by these people, right? That's just fact. And it's not a good thing. It's a vulnerability within all of us that these people just look for our vulnerabilities to exploit, and that's sad. And he's going to continue to do that. And people are going to continue to support him. And when they support him, they support more victims. But they just keep growing it on themselves. And that's why I shut down all of my Patreon. I shut down all of these things because I wasn't trying to do this to be a podcaster or a reporter. You have a much better voice, right, than I do this. You do a good job at this. You've been doing this stuff for like 20, 30 years.
No, 11 years. 11 years I've done the radio. No, but before that I did guest appearances like you're doing.
But you were like a reporter, right? For years before that. And this is in your blood. This isn't in my blood. It's not something I ever want to do. I like to actually be off the radar.
Yeah. Me too at this point, man. But listen, Patrick Bergy, we're out of time. Okay?
Thanks very much, Ed.
No, thank you, man. And I can't tell you something. Here's a guy, bikers for Trump, and here I am on the total opposite side, man. And I love you, man. We get along great. I tell you, because I think we both have good intentions. We're both honest people with good intentions.
Right.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Ed.
Good night.
Have a good evening.